you're new to TrekCulture, then hello, I'm Ellie, and this video might just give you a little indication as to who my favourite Star Trek character is. If you're not new to the channel, are you really surprised? It was only a matter of time before this video came, let's be honest. To quote Lieutenant Shax, Janeway didn't mess around. Thrown 70,000 light-years across the galaxy away from Earth and without the guidance of Starfleet, Captain Janeway certainly found herself in the most challenging and unprecedented of situations. And yet she held her head up high and tackled each obstacle with courage, stamina, and in many instances, full-on badassery. With the patriarchal skepticism weighing heavy on Kate Mulgrew and thereby Janeway's shoulders as Voyager took to our screens, it was vital for Star Trek's first leading female captain to demonstrate just as much, if not more, gall and strength as any male counterpart would, and it's fair to say that she did. Some examples are small but mighty, such as that epic slide entrance in The Chute, while others are of a much bolder magnitude. In the words of Mr. William Shakespeare, though she be but little, she is fierce, and don't you ever forget it. So with that in mind, I'm Ellie with TrekCulture, here with 10 times Captain Janeway went full badass. Number 10, Outthinking the think tank. To some, the term badass relates only to acts that demonstrate physical strength and impressive combat skills. This is, however, only one element of badassery, and particularly in relation to Captain Janeway, there is something to be said for utilizing intellect and knowledge to gain the upper hand on one's opponent. And this was certainly the case in Season 5's Think Tank. When faced with a seemingly inescapable trap laid out by Kuros and his aptly labelled think tank, Janeway and the Voyager crew are forced to outwit this collective of intellectuals in order to escape without adhering to their terms, namely handing over 7 of 9. After hours of unsuccessful discussions, Janeway comes to the realization that the best way to defeat the think tank is to use its predictability and weakness to their advantage, noting that without the ability to communicate, the collective would be unable to function. From here, a plan is formulated to trick Kuros into linking 7 into their communication systems, allowing Tuvok to disrupt their telepathic link. But to add the cherry to this cunning cake, Janeway's final line to Kuros, complete with a smug smirk, enforces her status as a complete badass. Oh, I'm sure you'll find a solution. Just give it some thought. Boom! Drop the mic, Janeway out. Number 9, Self-Destruct, Deadlock. Nothing screams badass more than arguing with a duplicate of yourself about who will self-destruct their ship to save the other. Season 2's Deadlock features not one but 2 Captain Janeways in full badass mode. As Voyager is split into 2 versions in the same space, each feeding off of the same engines, both crews must work to re-merge the ships before they both lose power. The Janeway duo deduce that destroying one ship will save the other, and Janeway 1, that is, the Janeway with a Voyager in greater disrepair, secretly intends to sacrifice her ship in order to save the better intact one. One problem though, seeing as they are essentially the same person, Janeway 2 immediately predicts Janeway 1's plan and strives to find an alternative solution. The tables soon turn, however, with the arrival of the Vidians. Whilst they board and swiftly attack the crew of Voyager 2, Voyager 1 remains undetected, and so with complete conviction and steadfast devotion, Janeway 2 vows to initiate the self-destruct on her ship in order to destroy the Vidians and allow Voyager 1 to continue on its journey. Most badass of all though, is the utterly calm manner in which she greets the Vidians as they enter the bridge. Without showing even a hint of fear or anticipation, she looks her foes straight in the eye as Voyager explodes around them. Badass. Number 8, Poetic Justice, Equinox. Just because an action is morally questionable or out of character doesn't mean it can't still be totally badass. The events of Equinox sent Janeway on a roller coaster of emotions. After spending 5 years as the superior officer to every single person in her Delta Quadrant life and distancing herself accordingly, she finally found the opportunity to have someone as her equal in Captain Ransom. This made it all the more painful then when she discovers that Ransom had completely disregarded his Starfleet principles and murdered in innocent creatures for his own gain. Naturally, Janeway was pissed. She vows to chase down Ransom and punish him for his betrayal of his oath, despite Chakotay's insistence that her priority should be Voyager's safety against the nucleogenic lifeforms. This personal vendetta pushes her to the extreme and even temporarily sways her moral compass, which leads to Janeway's crowning moment of badass villainy. With a captured crewman Lessing tied to a chair in the cargo bay, Janeway threatens to drop the shields and allow the lifeforms to pay him a visit. When Lessing states that doing so would be the same as murder, she simply replies, "You could also call it poetic justice." It soon becomes pretty clear that she really isn't bluffing, and Chakotay is forced to intervene. Even then though, Janeway is steadfast in her anger and relieves her first officer of duty for daring to question her motives. Morally questionable? Yes. Out of character? Somewhat, yes. Totally badass? Absolutely. Number 7. Challenging the Borg Queen, Dark Frontier. Anyone who stumbles across the Borg and lives to tell the tale should probably be considered a badass in their own right. But anyone who intentionally seeks out and provokes the Borg should be crowned badass supreme. Captain Janeway tempts fate twice in Dark Frontier. Her first move comes in the form of a planned heist of a Borg sphere in order to steal a transwarp coil. Not only does this plan require Voyager to purposely seek out their greatest enemy, but it also requires her crew to successfully infiltrate an active Borg vessel without being detected or assimilated. It's extremely ambitious and incredibly ballsy. Despite some resistance, ironically, they are successful in acquiring the coil. A slight hiccup, however, results in 7 of 9 remaining with the Borg in order to save Voyager from the Bor Queen's threats of assimilation. Janeway will not accept 7's claims that she wants to rejoin the collective, however, and quickly uncovers the truth. Then comes Voyager's second intentional pursuit of the Borg. This time there have been no simulations to test their tactics, and they know that the Borg will be expecting them. Janeway has the determination of a fearless mother to save 7 from reassimilation, and does not falter when she comes face to face with the Borg Queen. Not for the first time in Voyager, Janeway channels her inner Ripley and all but says the iconic line, "Get away from her, you bitch," as she holds the Borg Queen at phaser rifle point and demands the release of 7. Badass. Number 6. Alliance with the Borg, Scorpion. When it comes to the Borg, Captain Janeway does not do things by halves. From actively pursuing them to forming alliances with them, she really has no fear. If there is a species that is so powerful as to even threaten the Borg, the sensible course of action would be to turn around and run far, far away. But being the curious explorers that they are, the Voyager crew just had to go and investigate, didn't they? In doing so, they put themselves right near the top of species 8472's hit list. Does this worry our badass captain? Well, maybe a little, but it certainly doesn't stop her from forming her most ambitious and badass plan of their Delta Quadrant journey so far. After discovering a way to modify Borg nanoprobes to attack the species 8472 cells, and unwilling to accept that they will never make it home, Janeway makes a deal with the devil and proposes an alliance with the Federation's greatest enemy. Against the objections of Chakotay, Janeway pushes forward with the plan and, in an act of true selflessness and fearlessness, agrees to remain on the Borg cube for the duration of the alliance. It's pretty badass to voluntarily enter the belly of the beast. Was Chakotay ultimately right to assume that the Borg would double-cross them in the end? Of course he was. But they still managed to overcome both Species 8472 and the Collective and liberate 7 of 9 in the process. Number 5. Time's Up. Year of Hell. Things aren't looking so great for Voyager during Year of Hell. The Krenim are relentless in their attacks, and even as history is altered, thus reducing the Empire's destructive capabilities, Voyager is battered beyond repair. Even during this dire period of constant attack, Captain Janeway, rocking a badass new hairdo to boot, is determined to keep her crew, her family, together for as long as she possibly can. Her refusal to give in and remain on the offensive, regardless of the odds, speaks volumes of her strong will and determination. Her badassery really shines through though in the second installment of the 2-part arc. With only a skeleton crew remaining on board and both Chakotay and Paris captured by Anoraks, Voyager is defenseless and crumbling around them. After refusing appropriate medical attention to her lungs, Janeway's next act involves running into a room engulfed in flames to fix the deflector. While acknowledging the severe burns she will undoubtedly receive, she barely hesitates before plunging into the fire. The Doctor calls it reckless. We call it badass. Potato, potato. By far though, Janeway's most badass moment in Year of Hell comes at the climax of the story. Despite the certainty of the ship's destruction, Janeway orders her remaining crew to join their allied vessels while she remains on Voyager to lead the attack on the Krenim weapon ship. She is ready and willing to go down with the ship. With Voyager in complete ruin, Janeway crawls to her captain's chair, sets a collision course with the enemy ship, and prepares to sacrifice herself for the sake of her family. Holding steady in her stance, she delivers the iconic and badass line, "Time's up." Crash bang wallop and the Year of Hell ceases to exist. Number 4. Playing the player. Counterpoint. If the events of Season 5's Counterpoint proved anything, it's that Captain Janeway is a skilled actress as well as a badass captain. Whilst travelling through Devore space where telepathy is illegal, Voyager is subjected to random inspections to check that they aren't harbouring any telepathic beings. By the third inspection, the crew are well rehearsed in their concealment of the Brenari refugees, and it seems that Captain Janeway has managed to deceive the Inspector once more. Further along their journey, Inspector Kashyyyk returns to Voyager, claiming to have defected from the Devore and wishes to aid in the safe transport of the Brenari out of hostile space. Naturally, Janeway is wary of his motives, but as time progresses, it seems that the pair begin to develop a very friendly and flirtatious rapport. Kashyyyk shares tactical information about the Devore ships in exchange for asylum and even volunteers to return to the warships in order to protect Voyager from being caught. Janeway seems rather disheartened by Kashyyyk's departure, and the pair share a rather passionate farewell kiss. When the inevitable double-crossing of Kashyyyk is later revealed, Janeway keeps up the pretense of feeling betrayed right up until the Devore walks straight into her carefully placed trap. She sits beside Kashyyyk on the bridge, totally calm, cool and collected, and waits for him to slowly realise that he's been played. The most badass moment has to be though when he notices that she created false readings, and she simply turns to him and in a deliciously sarcastic deadpan voice replies, "That is the theme for this evening, isn't it?" Captain Janeway is many things. Brave, bold, badass, but she is certainly not a fool, and she most definitely cannot be easily manipulated by the flirtatious attentions of a known bully. Number 3. Catherine Ripley, Macrocosm. Season 3's Macrocosm features the famous moment that Captain Catherine Janeway channels her inner Ellen Ripley. Upon returning from an away mission with Neelix, Janeway discovers that Voyager is adrift and the crew are nowhere to be found. The pair soon cross paths with the pesky macrovirus, and with Neelix incapacitated, Janeway is left to investigate alone. What follows is one of Janeway's most badass scenes in all the 7 seasons of Star Trek Voyager. Entering engineering, phaser at the ready, Janeway becomes a full-on action hero as she scouts out every corner and cubby for the enemy. She then removes her jacket and proceeds to arm herself with all manner of weapons, grenades, a knife, and of course, that phaser rifle. Armed and ready, Catherine Janeway becomes Catherine Ripley and continues to stalk the corridors of the ship in search of her crew and her prey. With the help of the Doctor and following some rather unhelpful attacks from the TAC, Janeway plans to lure all the macrovirus lifeforms into the holodeck and administer an antigen to destroy them. With fierce determination in her stride, she marches to the holodeck with the antigen bomb in hand, but finds herself facing one of the creatures. So, in true badass fashion, she grabs her knife and engages in hand-to-hand combat with the macrovirus, before delivering a killing blow and launching the bomb with less than 10 seconds to spare. The badassery is then emphasized even further as she runs down the corridor, just barely dodging the explosion. What a hero! Number 2. Push to the limit, scientific method. Those alien scientists really shouldn't have been surprised by Janeway's actions in Season 4's scientific method. After days of being subjected to covert scientific experiments, the Voyager crew was beginning to fray. Janeway in particular was struggling to keep a cool head under the constant agony of invisible needles forced into her skull. Once 7 of 9 reveals the presence of the scientists, Janeway finally has the chance to interrogate them and learns that they have been increasing her dopamine levels and stimulating aggressive impulses to observe her restraint and test her limits. She makes it very clear that she is very close to reaching those limits. The death of a crew member pushes Janeway over the edge, and she is ready to reassert her control of the situation. Taking the helm, she sets Voyager on a course heading directly into the binary pulsars, which have been destroying anything getting too close to their gravitational pull. Despite the warnings from Tuvok on the low odds of the ship not being crushed, Janeway is firm in her stance and makes it clear to the aliens that she is prepared to take those odds and will not back down. When the alien comments that Janeway isn't behaving very rationally, she turns their own experiment against them and simply reminds them, that's what you were trying to accomplish, wasn't it? Really, these aliens shouldn't have underestimated just how badass Captain Janeway can be. Don't poke the bear if you don't want to get bitten. Number 1. Have your cake and eat it too. Endgame. Very few people have managed to beat the Borg, but with two Catherine Janeways working together, it suddenly became much more achievable. First and foremost, temporal prime directive issues aside, it doesn't get much more badass than traveling back in time to save those you care about the most. Admiral Janeway's steadfast mission to alter the timeline certainly broke many rules, but her stamina and determination dissolved any resistance she faced. Captain Janeway's sole ambition was to get her crew home, but she was also committed to upholding the principles of Starfleet and would not place the lives of innocent people above her desire to reach Earth sooner. With this mindset in place, when Voyager was given the opportunity to use the Borg transwarp hub to get home or deliver a crippling blow to the collective by destroying it, they opted to save the lives of any future victims of the Borg. With both Janeways working together, however, they were able to devise a plan that would mean that they could have their cake and eat it too. In her biggest badass move ever, Admiral Janeway makes the ultimate sacrifice, managing to trick the Bor Queen into assimilating the fatal virus that would destroy the collective, for a little while at least. Not only is the act itself totally badass, but the calm and confident way in which the Admiral addresses the Bor Queen is just the badass icing on their badass Borg-destroying cake. And just to add a final blow, not only does Voyager make it back to the Alpha Quadrant, but they do so by smashing through the transwarp conduit inside a Borg sphere. Once again, when it comes to the Borg, Catherine Janeway doesn't do things by halves. And there you have it, folks. You cannot tell me now that Janeway is not a badass. But if there are moments you think I missed, then please do let us know in the comments down below. And while you're there, don't forget to like and subscribe and tap that notification bell. Also head over to Twitter and follow us there. And I can be found across various social medias just by searching Ellie Littlechild. I've been Ellie with TrekCulture. I hope you have a wonderful day, and remember to boldly go where no one has gone before.